The first item on our agenda is the approval of the agenda, including the approval of the consent agenda, action memorandum number 18-072, authorizing the city manager to negotiate and enter into a contract with Bering Marine Corporation for the purchase and delivery of 100 tons of road salt in the amount of $16,830. Also, action memorandum number 18-073, authorizing the city manager to enter into a sole source procurement and execute a contract with National Meter and Automation for Badger water meters and supplies in the amount of $25,464. Action memorandum number 18-074, authorizing the city manager to negotiate and execute a new land lease agreement with Stephen J. and Heidi R. Hastings for a lease on Block 3, lease lot number 21, Palmer Municipal Airport for the purpose of establishing a business use aircraft hangar. What's the wishes of the council regarding the approval of the agenda?
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the agenda, including the approval of the consent agenda. Is there questions, comments, amendments from the council? Okay, all of those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Those opposed, say no. The yeses have it, and we have the approval of the agenda before us. The next item on our agenda is the city manager's mayor's report. City manager's mayor's report. No, that's not gonna work. City manager's report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A couple of things tonight. The first is the staff update and then an update on the potential park land in Hidden Ranch subdivision. So first, the call data breakdown. I figured out how to use my computer and make special marks on it, so I circled suspicious circumstances and then couldn't remember how to take it off. But the reason that's circled is that was up quite a bit from previous months, which accounts for the jump in other of 23 to 26%. So suspicious circumstances when someone calls and says, you know, there's somebody bothering someone, or there's a car that is parked somewhere, or suspicious activity. So it's another type of check. But it's been under other since I started categorizing these. So instead of skewing the numbers for checks, I just left it there. But I did want to highlight that that's the reason that it's such a big difference from previous months.
Okay,
I think some of that also has to do with our chief visiting other folks and encouraging them to call the department when they see something. He visited with the senior center and then the a couple of other events, so that's also could be a reason those calls are up. It's a good thing, not a bad thing. It's a good thing that those calls are up.
okay.
Moving to the fire department, just a note on rescue. We show that there's 20 rescue calls, but we did receive a special recognition, or I was approached to give some special recognition to our rescue folks by Deputy EMS Director, Mr. Barkley. He communicated that our department has been great to be part of the team. There's been some shortcomings in some of the other departments with vacations and things like that. And of course, we're on contract to respond to those areas. But it was just a comment that came kind of out of the blue that we've been well received in our efforts to help out the community. And thank you very much from the borough on that aspect.
Good.
You can see the call breakdown in the charts there and the type of incidents. Again, it was calls were up by 15%, which is 10 additional calls. Nothing of a trend that we're seeing other than that time of year, and our chart, when you look from year to year, bounces all over the place, so it's kind of in line with that. We look at the community development for the library. Total registered patrons is up. When we look at some of the other numbers, the new library users is down. This is the first time we've seen that number down from month to month. Nothing to worry about that I see at this point, just the time of year. Our patron visits are down just slightly, less than 10. And then our circulation was down by about 1,000, or by about 200. So some of the numbers are trending down, but again, it's not a significant for our library use. When you look at the programs, those numbers show the increase. Building compliance letters dispatched just shows 1 for unsightly, but that doesn't mean that we're out and about and looking at, and we're not out and about and we're not having code compliance happen. It's just we're trying some other means to get people to clean up and take care of their issues that we see. Building department, slightly down. When you look at the number of new starts, there was a slowdown in the Hidden Ranch, which is our biggest subdivision right now, but they're back on track. That development's moving along. The end of August, we've had just 3 new starts in the last week, so building is continuing to happen in Palmer. When you look at the overall numbers, it's the 6th year in valuation. Last month we were 5th. Number of building permits, we're still number 5th out of the last 10 years. So things are still going on in Palmer. It's into the construction season, so we won't see those numbers continue to grow much. The golf course, again, my fancy little red pen thing. But July was a good month for the golf course compared to last year and compared to last month. Almost everything was up with the exception of merchandise sales, which was down from last month, but up from last year. So they're catching up for having a cold May. Other things that are going on around town, the Glen Highway construction is well underway with the utility relocates. That work hasn't affected the fair traffic from what I can tell. The one good thing to come of that is the contractor was now responsible for the Glen Highway from basically the Springer to Bogard. So they were the ones that actually fixed the interchange that was talked about last meeting. They were out there, I think the state was out there the day of the meeting cold patching, but the contractor actually went out there and dug it up and then repaved it. So it's nice to see the contractors out working and take care of things for us. Some good news today, and you'll see it at the next council meeting, the FAA grant that we've applied for new equipment. It's in our CIP budget for $250,000 for one piece of equipment. And in Outlook, we had another piece of equipment, a loader, on our list for a wish list. We were able to combine those two into this year, and we got a grant offer of $487,000 that will require a $32,000 match. So that should be pretty significant for the airport and also for the city because some of that equipment will get handed down. That's again 93 to 7% match, and you'll see that next session for your review and approval if it meets the council's desires.
Good.
Last session, a citizen reported that a big yellow monster was out and about chewing up vetch and other things. We continue right-of-way maintenance. We will be doing some tree removal, not with that big yellow monster. That's still doing the right-of-way clearance, but some of our trees around our light poles and some of our sidewalks will be coming down as well. We do that every year about this time, and it's contracted work. So if you see Gage Tree Service in an area that you think is a city, that's what they're doing out there. Not a lot, but there will be some trees that come down. We have about a month left with our grounds crew, so the season is winding down for them. The MT Event Center is putting ice in as we speak, and we should be opening the ice. Should be on ice come the week after Labor Day. City offices will be closed on Monday in observance of Labor Day. So it all sounds like we're getting ready for winter, which we are. But there's still plenty of sunshine in the week to come. So get out to the fair if you haven't been yet. And for all those you listening, again, the fair is a spectacular thing going on this year. Especially is that the garden with the water scene was pretty interesting. So that's it for the report. I do have some follow-up from last session about some potential property purchase, which is on the table. It looks like a little map. And for the audience, it's in the bucket. So this is from Hidden Ranch. This is from Mr. Spinelli. When we discussed a potential property purchase for a park in that subdivision. Again, he was a little hesitant because it hasn't been announced or advertised as an amenity. And if a park were to go in now, there might be some folks that were concerned about that. But he offered these 3 ideas, as you see circled. In the blue, idea 3 doesn't really come out, but that's two lots that are currently undeveloped. Idea 2, working backwards, is the yellow, and that's 3 lots combined. It's basically that entire cul-de-sac. And then idea 1 is 2 lots at the very back of the subdivision. So there was just his concerns were potentially having a park in someone's backyard that may not have known it when they bought the property, but that can be overcome. On the back page, it was just some ideas for discussion on what we might see or might do with if we pursue that purchase. The first is at the bottom is the cost of purchase. So option 1 with those 2 lots is $116,000, is $58,000 per lot. Idea 3 is 3 lots, which would be 174 at 58. And then if, in the undeveloped portion, it would be 50,000 per lot. So to pursue that option, it would be about $100,000, and that's just for land acquisition. And then the lot prices, if the desire is to just pursue one of any of those lots, in phase 4, which would be the yellow or the red, those lots are 58,000. And in phase 5, which is the blue, those lots would be 50,000. Some of the items that came up in discussion, basically the parking, noise, and then amenities were what we discussed. Some of the other things are for council, if we pursue this, in the Parks Board and the public to decide is what type of park is it, because the size lends itself to different types of things. So a smaller lot would be a pocket park or a neighborhood park. Go something as big as idea 2, then that could potentially be a community park, or even a regional park, depending on how it gets developed. And then idea 1 could be somewhere in the middle, pocket park or neighborhood park, or a smaller community park. Again, each of those types have different issues that come with them. But then just looking at the lot sizes for parking in a subdivision, some of the things I've heard about Darren Park, which is a pocket park, is on-street parking. There's no parking for that. The park at the end of, pardon me? No. So, so the park on Darren, which I think is McKechnie, when they have birthday events, there's no parking, so folks end up parking in front of the residential areas. Meyer Park, or the Kiwanis Park down at the end of the street, end of Cobb, that's becoming more and more a community park. Even though it's not very big, it's drawing folks because they can see it from the highway, and they see people there, and it also has the school lunch or the free lunch summer program. So it's becoming more of a community park than a neighborhood park. But the first 2 options are pretty big, and there'll be plenty of room on the lots to put in a parking lot. Option 3, depending on if we went with what type of park, putting parking on that lot is feasible. And then if we go with just a single lot, really there'd be no parking on the lot themselves, and we'd be back to on-street parking. So depending on what type of park we put in, would potentially lead to parking or potential overflow parking problems. Noise issues, when you look at the red, it's pretty isolated. It doesn't really back up against, at least it doesn't back up against any residential in that subdivision. Potentially it would be next to the big lot in the yellow. If the idea 2, that's in the backyard of 4 or 5, and next to 4 or 5 residential lots. So depending on how that park gets developed, that would be a potential issue. And then idea 3 would just be surrounding the next left and right, and across the street for any noise type issues. And again, this all depends on the type of park that's developed. If it's just a trailhead, that's one piece. If it's a pump track, that attracts a different crowd. If it's a playground, that's another type crowd. If you put a pavilion in the restrooms, so again, a lot of it depends on how the park is developed. And then amenities, we're just looking at stormwater or sewer and water. Is to those first 2 ideas. There's sewer and water already to those lots. There'll be electricity to all three ideas, regardless of what's done. So there would be a potential for lighting. For the yellow and red, there were potential for restrooms. And then, and of course, I just mentioned there's electric all the way across. So that's kind of in a nutshell for that. If we're going to develop a park in that area, you can see the price tag just for the land. Community Development Director and I ventured into Anchorage today to look at some parks that might be similar to this, or just to see how they're developing parks. And I don't know if anybody's been to the Chattanooga Park on Muldoon. It's a new one across from what's the donut place? Dunkin', yeah, Krispy Kreme's right across from that little common area. It's a beautiful park, and it also has a farmer's market once a week. And the price tag for that was $1.3 million to develop that park, and that was it's a nice park, but again, price tags on parks, it's something we have to consider on how we're going to develop a park. So that's where we are with this one. Any opinion and guidance either to pursue this or to pursue other land, or could work with the Parks Board to further refine what type of park is the next one that we invest in.
Madam Mayor.
Yes. Deputy Mayor Beck?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The original discussion was about a single piece of property, and it was actually encompassed into the idea two, but idea two actually is expanded version where it encompasses 3 lots. So the price tag is overly inflated of what the actual cost of purchase of the single lot that we had talked about. So the original idea was just that triangular shape that's a little bit expanded piece of property. And the reason for that is because there's a 10-foot wide trail easement that runs on the entire north side of that development. And that ties into the Crevice Moraine Trail System and is part of the Milky Power Line Trail that runs along there. And so there's already a 10-foot wide trail easement in this, this triangular shaped piece. And by that, that's the piece that actually has the phase word in it, just that single lot, not the entire 3 pieces that are incorporated in the gold cloud. It's just that one piece that has the word phase in it. And that piece of property it's got a terrain issue, and that's why they had to expand it to be that big so that they could find a flat area to where they could still have a house on it. So that's why we'd be getting kind of the best bang for the buck for the square footage of property and the coverage of the trail easement itself. And in that situation, you could have the next level pump track from what we have right now. This would be more for the experienced versus the intermediate that we have currently right now. And this then ties into our trails system. So that's what my desire was, for us to go and purchase a single piece of property, not have multiple pieces. And I think it actually bodes well that there's multiple properties then bordering against it, so you'll have more folks invested in making sure that that's being watched after. So I think you would have more citizen involvement as to, if they see something happening around there that we need to let the police department know, or kind of a neighborhood watch kind of situation where they can kind of watch things, so.
And, were you through, sir? So on that one, for site number 2, do we know where the water and sewer is and the electricity? So if you would take it just back to the one lot, like what you were talking about, would that one still have water and sewer and electricity? Do you know, sir?
Thank you, madam. Yes, that does, that's one that already has water, and it's to the front of the lot, water, sewer, and electricity. So
Right,
it
but if
has
he's,
not been developed further into that lot. That would be whoever, the homeowner or whoever purchased
yeah,
that lot.
but I mean, if he's talking, what I got, you were sort of drawing a line underneath the word phrase or across, is that what you're
That would be
thinking
down,
of?
it'd be down this way.
This, Madam Mayor, for the
Yeah.
record, this is one lot,
Right,
but it's an odd shaped lot, and
Right.
they actually have water and sewer to it, and that they had to create this large lot so that they get
Right.
a spot where they could put a house in there.
uh-huh,
And so
Right.
you could have some on-street parking, and also because it's on a cul-de-sac, and I think that's kind of a beautiful part about this whole thing is it's not a straight-through street. So if you have people parking in the cul-de-sac, it's not like an inconvenience like it would be on a straight-through street or on a corner or something like that, where you got people kind of on the edge of the street parking.
And
Where we
that's-
have the kind of situations in town right now.
and that's the most expensive one, the 174.
Well, actually, that's what I was bringing up, to the point that they clouded in 3 properties and created the price for that, not just a single lot. So in the single lot, that's where he said it was in the 50 to 58,000 range.
That's correct. That lot is 58,000, and then the next subdevelopment, the purple, those are 2 lots, and each of those lots is 50.
So
All right,
what the
this-
original,
Under option 2, this option 2 is not that the idea 2?
Idea 2 is 3 lots.
Okay, so idea 2 and option 2 is not the same
It's the
thing.
same. That's correct.
Well, then this price,
That's for
174,000.
3 lots.
So, but where are these, what I'm trying to say is, where is the dividing for those 3 lots in this phase?
A line there, and a line there.
Oh, there, oh, that line over there, okay. All right, now I see it, okay, thank you.
and Madam Mayor, that's what I had originally requested, it was that the city goes after buying that single lot, the one that's 58,000. And it has power and water and sewer to it, so if we do as we go through this process of
Right.
determining what we're going to develop on it.
Right.
And we want to have a bathroom facilities, we could do that. If we want to have lighting, we
Right,
could do that as
right.
well.
Yeah, yeah, I understand that. Okay, thank you. Any further questions or comments from the council members regarding the presentation? On anything on the manager's report?
Yes, Madam Mayor.
Yes,
I'd like to point out that Lisa Darren Street Park was developed to be a neighborhood park. And that's one reason why, and if we keep with the spirit of what we were looking at back in those days of developing pocket parks or neighborhood parks across the community, not particularly large commercial sized community parks, that sort of thing. And get that, but we need to explain that idea more to our residents and our citizens, you know, I mean, that is what it was considered to be, instead of driving to, you know, this is something that's in your neighborhood, that you would then hopefully also take some pride of ownership, and help with the development of it and help with the upkeep of it. But, I think that's, I don't know, maybe a communication that we need to once again make to the community as well.
any further questions, comments? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
So
Councilwoman Sabrina Clark.
what's the plan moving forward here?
At this point, I need some direction from the council on whether to pursue purchase.
Right, or should this be referred to our Parks and Rec Board to give us some input?
Madam Mayor, I would definitely suggest sending it to Parks and Rec. And adding in idea number 4 of just the triangular lot that Deputy Mayor Best is talking about as an option.
Okay,
The fact that it connects into our trail system is pretty huge.
okay. Is there support for that,
Agreed.
Deputy Mayor Best?
No,
I'm sorry.
I'd
Yes.
support that.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
And for the record, I happened to speak with the chair of the Parks and Rec Board and mentioned to them that I was bringing it before council. And she said that they didn't realize that they were waiting for us to actually, or waiting for them to bring something forward, because I had talked to them about this a year ago. And we, you know, they didn't realize that that we were waiting for them to send something
okay.
forward. So with that in mind, those properties are being gobbled up right now. I think that if we wait longer, it's gonna be gone. Have the opportunity to put earnest money down and start this process forward. So this is something that the developer had been talked to 2 years ago about, and some of the same concerns, has been expressed to this body from the developer, you know, about some of the property owners not being aware of it. And here we are, then it was a year later, talked to the Parks and Rec Board about it. And here we are 2 years past the initial idea of this. And I think that we're just going to have another opportunity that we're gonna miss the boat. And, you know, that trail easement with that system right there is already in our list of parks and trails to try to tie into, and it's already in the plan to go forward, not this particular piece of property, but the idea of connecting to these. And I think that this might be one of those that we look back later on and say, you know what, we should have been bold and just gone out there and purchased it and figured it out.
Okay. And the Parks and Rec Board, if I remember correctly, canceled the meeting for September, is that right? So, okay. All right, yes, Councilman LaFrance.
Thank you. Yeah, I would encourage the city manager to speak with Mr. Spinelli and see what the story is with the individual lot, as Councilman Best noted. And I do think its placement is really good along the trail as well, and it does make sense. So I do have some concerns that Councilman Best brought up as far as missing out on this opportunity. And so I think if we can get more information on that, then maybe as a council we can decide how we want to move forward with purchasing. But I do think bringing it to Parks and Rec is important. Certainly the development phase of this park will land squarely on Parks and Rec, I think.
Okay, Councilman Carrington?
I would be in favor of having the manager go for, I don't know what the lot number is for the single triangular lot, and encourage him to see if he can get a deal for 19 and 20, that, you know, he has some freedom there too. But I guess I would like to see us try to try to go ahead and grab at least that one lot. And then with the plan that we're gonna put this to the Parks and Rec Board to let them, you know, have the, kind of the say on how to develop it, et cetera.
Okay.
Second, yeah.
So is there gonna be a motion or a consensus here? Where are we at? Yes, Councilman Sabrina.
I'll make a motion that we recommend the city manager seek out purchasing the large triangular lot, of which the number I cannot read.
Right.
Second.
Okay, the motion before you is for the city manager to, seek out, start the negotiations for the purchase of that large or the one single lot, the triangle lot. That one there, okay. And do we need to set a price, or you pretty well know what that is, huh?
He's offered it at $58,000.
So that's the high end of that, okay, all right. So any amendments to the motion or comments or discussion before we vote?
Do we have money for that?
Yeah, there's some money in the fund.
There are several sources. There's the land fund, which has enough to cover this. This wouldn't be appropriate for our park improvement fund. And then there's the general fund unassigned fund balance.
Madam Mayor,
Yes,
and the number is always negotiable,
yeah,
and there are tax deductions.
right, right. And I don't know if there maybe could be some grants also from Health Foundation or Rasmussen or something like that. I mean, if, as long as we had a long enough closing time, you know, we would have to put up some earnest money, and you know all about how to handle that, so, yeah. Okay, any further questions, comments, amendments or anything? Okay, the motion before you then is for the city manager to go ahead and start negotiations on the single triangle lot with the owner. All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Yes, those opposed say no. The yeses have it, and sir, you have some direction. Okay, anything further on the city manager's report or questions, comments or anything? Okay, we're ready for the city clerk's report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. At this time, I don't really have anything else to add to what's already in the written report here, and so I'm good. I'm just available for any questions that anyone might have.
Okay. Well, on your vote thing now, with the recent election in Anchorage, you're gonna have some more to add to that, right?
Possibly. Maybe not.
Any questions to the city clerk regarding her report or any other item? Okay, alrighty, next is my mayor's report. I'm gonna give these to the clerk and ask her to pass these out. Last Friday afternoon, we had graduation at Job Corps, and Monica, superintendent of schools, came and did the commencement address. And she brought these to give out, and this was her talk also, to all of the graduates. And so I said, I think we need some of these for the council. So she gave me some. And so she said then in her message that this was the key to success. And the work hard, she found, wasn't as hard as being the nice, so, anyway, so. She told the graduates, that's gonna be your challenge, to be nice, she said. Another item, that's not on the mayor's report is the community college anniversary, which is gonna be October 4th. The mayor-manager's meeting on October 18th in Houston has been canceled because that's Alaska Day, and some of the mayors and managers have that day off, so. Any questions on my report? Okay. We will now go ahead and go into Audience participation, anybody in the audience is welcome to come forth and address the council on any issue. 5 minutes if you are representing a group and 3 minutes if you're representing yourself. Audience participation is now open. Seeing no one coming forth, audience participation is now closed. The next item on our agenda is public hearing. This is ordinance number 18-005, amending the Palmer Municipal Code Title 14 pertaining to signs. Does the council want a staff report before we open the public hearing? Okay. Okay. Okay, I will then go ahead and open the public hearing for ordinance 18-005. Anyone in the audience that would like to come forth and testify on this particular item? Ordinance number 18-005 is encouraged to 5 minutes if you're representing a group, 3 minutes if you're representing yourself. Seeing no one come forth, does council have any objections to me closing the public hearing? Okay, public hearing on ordinance number 18-005 is closed. What is the council's wishes?
Move to approve.
Okay? Sure. Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve ordinance number 18-005. Discussion, amendments, questions by the council? Councilman? Oh. Councilman Fuller?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just had one question, and the definition of a banner, and the only reason I bring it up is so we have a definition of a banner, and we've got a time limit on how long the banners can be up. And by our definition, that thing on the side of U-Haul is a banner. So how do we differentiate that without saying we kind of set you guys up or make it look nefarious or anything like that?
Go ahead, sir.
Oh,
Thank you, Madam Mayor. That's page 91, but that's our current definition, is not being changed. But it is a banner, and we are counting down the days on that. So it's not a permanent sign, the ones that you're referring to, but that's not something that's being changed at this point.
okay, so. Yeah, we're going to, so we're calling that a banner. Do they know that?
Yes, they do.
Okay. Cool.
Further questions or comments? Deputy Mayor Best?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Okay, so if you look at the old and new definition of animated,
Pages, please.
I'm sorry, 87 and 91.
Okay, thank you.
New is animated. You get into like B, a sign or action, motion, or illustration of either or changing colors which require either electrical, solar, or wind power energy. I'm not certain as to why we're defining as to how the electricity itself is generated, which is a little confusing. I mean, whether it's solar or wind or electrical, well, actually, they're all electrical at some point. So that's a little odd there, but I don't know why we're defining that. I don't know if that the attorney needs us to chime in with that. And I'll let that simmer and then I'll have more questions on that.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
So what we found is that signs, as they pop up, don't necessarily fit, so we're trying to get ahead of the game. We've modeled after some other places, so whether it's plugged in or battery or solar, a solar sign is, in this case, defined as an animated character sign and not a standalone solar sign. So we're trying to capture as much as we could based on situations we've seen elsewhere. Does it need to be that detailed? Probably not. We try to think of signs that it would prevent that we might like to see in the city. Nothing really came to mind that it would. But again, we don't want to see solar signs that are freestanding just pop up anywhere without some type of at least thought on whether or not they fit in with the scheme of things. So animated signs, I believe, are addressed. So there's a definition, and then they're addressed elsewhere on where they can and can't be used. I don't know if that answered the question.
Follow up, sir.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And with that, I just want to bring everybody's attention to read that thoroughly when you start looking at the new animated. Now, this is, much like the manager said, they've expanded the understanding of what is animated. And please take that into account, because as we get into the actual sign regulations themselves, this is just the definitions. What originally drew me to be on even the Planning and Zoning Commission years ago was trails and signage, and it's because I was in the belief that we could eventually end up like Las Vegas if we don't watch ourselves and be mindful of kind of those bright lit signs, not just the standalone neon signs, that kind of stuff, but these flashing, strobing. Now you're starting to get into high definition, almost TVs. You know, and as you go along the parks right now, early in the morning, off to the side, you're seeing some of these large animated roving TV screens that are out there that are signage. And I don't think that that's the image that we would like to have in the downtown area of Palmer. So just be mindful of that definition as we go along here.
Okay,
Thank you.
go ahead, sir. Oh,
Madam Mayor, I would just like to add that I'm in total agreement that we have to think far ahead. You have to close your eyes and just envision. I know a few years, just a few short years ago, there was flashing signs proposed for the four-way stop in downtown Palmer. And when I closed my eyes and tried to imagine it, you know, on January 15th or something, it didn't look like Palmer. It was garish. It was, I mean, I could see some points, but the bottom line was, and I had other people telling me the same thing, you know, so that's what we have to keep in mind here. Fully defining something is not a bad idea, but we have to keep in mind when we get to the point where we're saying this is what can be within our city limits, just exactly what we want things to look like, and be mindful of, you know, a decade or two from now.
okay. Go ahead, sir. You have a comment?
So the follow-on piece of that is, that's the definition of what a changeable copy sign is, and we've broken it down in two different pieces. So if you look on page 98, which is our current regulation with additions, so signs that are prohibited, which is on the back of 97, 140801, 010, those are the types of signs that are prohibited in all zonings. If you look at F and G, portable signs, changeable copy signs are prohibited. So again, they've been prohibited, but now we've further defined what an animated sign is, and so that's what we were trying to get at. So we already prohibit a lot of signs. But what does it mean when you say a changeable copy sign? Because before it just said changeable copy. So we've added the definition there. And is it more robust than it needs to be? Again, maybe. But if we have a sign that rolls in that's doesn't meet the intent, but falls in, you know, this is how you describe your sign as a solar, manual, changeable copy. It's animated. Well, now we've got a definition for it. So again, as has been pointed out, we're trying to look to the future on what technology can do, and do we want that technology? Because we've said no changeable copy, no automated signs. Now, again, pretty robust now. 5 years from now, it may not fit because technology has changed so much that we'll have to readdress this again. So that was the thought process we used there.
Okay. Further questions or comments by the council?
I would say, and the community development director is looking right at me. The one piece that when we looked at signs in Palmer, and what kind of signs do we want to see and not want to see in Palmer, and one of them is rooftop signs. We don't want to see rooftop. I don't think we do. I don't think we want to see rooftop signs in Palmer. We got some flat top buildings that lend themselves pretty good to rooftop signs if you can sustain the winds. Well, there's one that we kind of sort of missed. It's the Palmer bar sign. If you look at it initially, it looks like it's on the side of the building, but it's really affixed to the roof. So if it were to blow off and they put it up back the way it is, it may not be a legal conforming, non-conforming sign in the future if it were to blow off. But I think that they could engineer that to go back where it is and not be considered a rooftop sign. But right now, technically, if we pass this, no more signs like that, even though it's on the side of the building. So if you want to, that would be the one thing that might be, you know, we're not gonna affect anybody in town except the Palmer Bar. But when you pass, if you pass this as written, doesn't mean you have to take it down. It's a legal non-conforming, as our definition states. But if something were to happen to that sign, I'm sure we could come to some interpretation and help them attach it back to their roof without being a rooftop sign. But really the intent was, you know, the big flat roofs with big billboards on the roof, so that was in here, no rooftop signs. Just want to point that out, so.
Okay, further questions or comments by the council? Okay. Oh, Councilman Fuller?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was just gonna ask, does that also count for Alaska Picker with the truck up there?
That is not the main building. It is on a roof of a shed, but it's not on the main of the building, so it's one of those that I don't interpret it as being a rooftop sign, but I guess one could. If you were to put it on the big square, on his big building, then I would say yes, but it's on a shed that acts like a stand, so that's how I look at it. Again, we try to capture as much as we can, but every example that we looked at, we didn't feel that that was a rooftop sign, even though it's on a roof, but not the main building roof.
So then we're saying we could put a sign, we can't put a sign on a main building, but if I put a shed next to my building, I could put a sign on top of that.
You can put a truck on top of it.
I could put a truck, yeah.
We'll have to go back and look at that one, but so again, if that falls off that shed, then he wouldn't be able to put it back. It would be a legal non-conforming.
Okay, further questions or comments from the council? Okay, you ready to vote? Oh, Deputy
Yeah.
Mayor.
I mean, and I want to commend Councilman Fuller, though, that was a great question. You know, I think the last thing that we want to see is, as our town exists right now, to affect the businesses that we have right now with us, that we all are comfortable with the way that our town is. My question to the attorney, legal non-conforming, is that going to be able to stand up to be able to allow our existing businesses to continue as it is today without much pushback from the city? In that scenario that was placed before you right now, do you see issues?
Well, first of all, without fully evaluating the question, I would be hesitant to provide a legal opinion off the cuff. We can look at that at some point. There is a legal non-conforming use ordinance. However, a sign ordinance is a regulatory measure that may not lend itself to non-conforming use rights. So the question to be considered is whether hypothetical examples fall within the intent and application of the sign ordinance. So I know that didn't answer your question, but I'm hesitant to do so in the context of a specific business that's existing without evaluating it.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, Councilman Carrington.
So if I'm understanding it right, basically, the signs that we have now would currently either fit in our code or be considered what the manager calls legal non-conforming.
Madam Mayor,
Is that,
if
Yes,
I may supplement my comment, the existing ordinance did contain a legal non-conforming status provision, and it does talk about the sign being, you could lose your non-conforming or grandfather rights if the sign's relocated, if it's damaged to the extent of 50% of the replacement, or the structure or size of the sign is altered in any way except towards compliance with the chapter. So there is a legal nonconformity in the sign ordinance.
Okay, further questions or comments from the council? Councilman Carrington.
I was just gonna mention, so historically, we've had a few legal non-conforming signs like McDonald's and Chevron that were taller than what our code later adjusted to, and they've since adjusted since they blew down. I think Subway's the only one that's still way up there, but it's I apparently never hit the 50% mark.
Madam Mayor.
Councilman
Yeah,
Linda Combs?
If my memory serves, I believe one of the reasons the last time this was looked at or whatever, there was a fairly robust conversation regarding the subway sign. So far, it has survived all of our high winds, et cetera, but it was, people that were unhappy about what, how high it is and everything else, were able to accept that it was going to be there until, perhaps an act of God took it down. So I think the legal nonconforming has held up for quite some time.
Further questions or comments by the council? Okay, we're ready to vote then on the motion on the floor? Okay, the motion on the floor is to accept ordinance number 18-005. All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Yes,
Those opposed say no. The yeses have it, and we have adopted ordinance number 18-005. We have no items under action memorandum, record of items placed on the table.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have two items placed on the table. We have the map of the hidden ranch that pertains to potential property purchase for Trailhead. And then we also have this flyer, the Work Hard and Be Nice, that goes to the mayor's report.
Okay, thank you. The next item on our agenda is audience participation. Audience participation is now open. Anyone in the audience can come forth and talk to the council about any item, whether it's on the agenda or not. 5 minutes if you represent a group, 3 minutes if you're representing yourself. Seeing no one come forth, I will close audience participation. Council member comments? Councilwoman Linda Combs, we'll start with you, I guess.
I want to thank Council Member Sabrina Combs for the invitation to sit on the grandstand on Saturday. As always, it was a lot of fun, and was a great way to preview the parade. So a lot of things coming up in the next couple weeks. The Sister City, Sister Schools program will be welcoming several students. We'll be seeing them, I believe, perhaps at our next meeting. I know that the mayor and I and the manager in particular will be attending a variety of things with them. Tomorrow I'll be going into Anchorage to be present. I've been invited to be present at the signing into law Senate Bill 169, which has to do with behavioral health coverage. It was a particularly important law, in my opinion, for everyone, but especially for seniors being able to get better coverage, and I'm really pleased to be doing that. And then in 2 weeks, right after we have our meeting here, I'll be going to Nome to attend the Alaska Commission on Aging. First time in 10 years, worksite studies done in that area, and I'm pretty excited because I've never been to Nome. So everybody enjoy going out to the fair and their Labor Day weekend. Thank you.
Councilman Fuller?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think it's great we passed the sign ordinance. I think it's a small step forward in defining what our ordinances mean, and actually hopefully we enforce them. And I hope that we get out there and let those folks know that are out of compliance, that are grandfathered in, that what the situation is, instead of blindsiding them in the future. So that's all I got to say. Thank you.
Councilwoman Sabrina Combs?
Yes, I just want to say thank you to several people for the Alaska State Fair Parade. It was a huge success. It was a beautiful day. John Prevost, specifically from Public Works, sent a text in the morning, and it's completely out of his job duties, but he sent a text and said, I'm leaving town and I just want to make sure that the power is working downtown for the grandstand before I leave. And I just thought that was the nicest thing ever, because I've had to call him before to come fix it. Ailish and Tracy with Public Works were out before I was at 6:30 in the morning putting out the cones, and I just want to say thanks. And then a huge thanks to Nate and his family, because they helped me clean up afterwards, even though he doesn't want any credit. He was a huge help. So thank you also to those that made it out. Also, Nope, that's all I have. Okay.
Okay. Councilman Carrington?
I was just gonna say, I do like this, and I'll see if I can maybe stick it here in the end. to remind-
Practice it.
To remind me when I come to sit down here, yes. That's all.
Councilman LaFrance?
No comment tonight.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Best?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to thank council for the approval of the land purchase to go forward with that park. It's something that I've been hoping to get done for the last several years in conversations, trying to work the process. And sometimes with development being as moving quickly as it is, which is sometimes a good thing, sometimes it can get ahead of the process at times. So I really appreciate council moving forward with that. And I look forward to another extension of our beautiful town.
Okay. The next item on our agenda is executive session, a matter which by law, municipal charter, or ordinances are required to be confidential, pending litigation, attorney-client communication. William Peterson and others versus City of Palmer, case number 3 PA 1701409 CI. And note action may be taken following the executive session. And we do have another executive session, but later, but we will take the first one and we'll take them separate. We won't go from, we won't make it continue. Councilwoman Linda Combs.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like the record to reflect that I'm going to recuse myself from this executive session. I am currently a member of the Board of Directors for the Matsu Senior Service Center. And as always, and I always have done this, I will avoid any even perception of any improprieties or such. So I'm going to excuse myself, but I will remain in the building so that I can come back and be in the next executive session.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Pardon? Any objection from the council? Did you shake your head yet? Oh. Yeah.
I was agreeing that, yes, we needed to have the choice of having an objection.
Okay, alrighty. So with that, we will recess for just a few minutes while we prepare.
Take a motion to go.
Oh, I'm sorry, I need a motion to go into executive
I'll
session
move.
first, please.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor of going into executive session, please say yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, say no. Okay, we will clear the room and then we will come back into executive session.